Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss a point called as a clustering. We know that clustering is one type of unsupervised kind of learning. So we'll go in detail the clustering concept. So this is the introduction of your clustering. Clustering is similar to the classification in the data that are grouped. So when we are having a data, we can group the data according to the some defined features or some similarities. Such kind of groups are called as clusters, and ultimately this is somewhat similar to classification, but there is a little difference between clustering and classification. In classification, we know that groups are predefined, whereas in the clustering, groups are not predefined in advance, but instead of that, groups are defined on the basis of similarity between the data according to the characteristics found in the actual data. The groups which are created, those are called as clusters. No doubt there are many definitions for clusters that have been proposed by so many people. So some of the definitions we can discuss, like we can say set of cluster is nothing but the set of like elements. The elements from different clusters are not alike. This definition can say. And one more, the distance between points in the cluster is less than distance between a point in the cluster, in the same cluster, and any point outside it. So this is also one type of cluster. It means that we are trying to find out the distance between the points present or elements present in the cluster and the distance in between them. So this is you can define like this, that is clustering. Now like your clustering, there is another term called as a segmentation, which is so similar to your clustering, in which the like tuples or records are grouped together, called as a segmentation. We are having a diagram here. In this particular portion, we are having a group of homes which are just scattered all around the place. So we can create a cluster accordingly, but we can just use some different attributes also. Suppose we want to group the homes on the basis of geographic distance that are shown in this diagram. So different groups according to the geographic distances from each other, they are created. Or sometimes we can say that in the third diagram, the cluster of homes is created on the basis of size of the homes. So we are having a different type of clusters. So likewise we can create the cluster according to the features or attributes or criteria, you can say. So these are the attributes of different clusters. Now we are talking about, we'll go with some information of the classification. A classification of the different types of clustering algorithms that are shown in the following diagram. So classification of clustering we are going to discuss in a very brief manner. So in this diagram, actually the classification is defined of the clustering. So cluster is this cluster is divided into 4 parts, that is hierarchical, partitional, categorical, and large DB. So this hierarchical cluster is again divided into agglomerative and divisive, and this large database is again divided into 2 type of clusters we can create, that is one type is sampling and another type is compression. So this is the classification of clustering algorithms. We can use these algorithms according to the data according to the nature of the data. Now categorical clustering means what? Categorical clustering in which data are targeted to a larger, perhaps a dynamic or a dynamic database. That is a categorical clustering, you can say. In this algorithm targeted to a larger database and adopt memory constraints by either sampling the database or using the structure of the database. So we are using a data structure or sampling. These two things are used in the used for defining the cluster in the categorical clustering. Extrinsic technique is one more technique which is used for this clustering in the categorical clustering, where we are using the labeling of the atoms to assist the classification process. So labeling is important part over here. Then these algorithms are the traditional classification supervised learning algorithms in which special input training set is used. So if you want to go with the extrinsic technique, we have to use a training input, special input training set, and this is no doubt a supervised learning algorithm. One more algorithm is present for the categorical clustering is intrinsic algorithm. Intrinsic algorithm do not use any priori category labels, but depends only on the adjacency matrix containing the distance between the objects. So likewise we are using a different types of algorithm to define the cluster. Thank you.